Back to State of Scrims podcast. This is our second episode. I mean, we're not tracking seasons or anything, so this is probably not actually episode two. It's episode whatever. Shot in the dark. We'll say 39. That's probably way off. But I'm joined by Brewer. Mason is in game. I did tell him we were doing this, so we'll see if he demands to be part of it later on. But I honestly doubt that he cares enough to do so. So.
Hey,
Um,
happy to fill in.
Yeah, I mean, as if you're just watching the stream, you saw Brewer and I both do quite well in our series against Albert's Inferno. I believe Brewer finessed both MVPs by just playing better than everyone else. So that does make sense. But I dropped 2 10 bombs on Jinx, so shout out PB for making that happen or whatever. But we can just kick it over. Um, to the season page and take a look at the standings so far. I think what we're seeing is a little bit different um, than what was predicted kind of by all the captains at the beginning of the season,
Right.
um, but not too different. Guru, what's been most surprising to you so far this season?
Um, Most surprising to me, probably Metabusters looking a little bit shaky to start the season. Uh, They lost 2-0 to us, and then they went 1-2 against Fruitcakes. So probably them just looking a little shaky. I mean, they are the defending champs with the returning roster. I think they'll figure it out. I think they kind of figured it out in the later two games of the Fruitcake series, but probably just that. I mean, otherwise, I think everything's kind of expected.
Yeah, I mean, I'll point out that I feel like Metabusters did have a pretty strong lead in that first game against Fruitcakes. I think they just as most of us are, still adapting to the mid game. Got a little shaky around Otacon, and then I think lost to like a Dragon Baron combo. So I think just working out some kinks. I think overall they did look really strong that series, and they had like a commanding lead in all 3 games. It just didn't end up going their way. Um, I think what's most surprising to me is it's a really close between two things, and they're the two teams that are 0-2 at the bottom of the scoreboard. These are both not teams I expected to see at the bottom, especially after 2 games. Alberts obviously did end up losing one of their games to an FF, as we can see at the top half of the screen. A bit unfortunate, especially because I feel like they played us super close. I think they're a really strong team. So, had that series gotten to be played out, I think we could have seen a bit of a different result. Um, so I think
Yeah.
I'll put my stock in 101 Thieves O2 as the one that surprises me the most. Then they did manage to get a game against the team they played second, which was Andromeda. That series was awesome, by the way. I think Will and Honing casted that one. Possibly the longest Scrim Zone series that we've ever had. That thing went on for like 3.5 hours without any pauses or delays. It was just that good. You should go
Hmm.
watch it. Um,
That was a really fun series.
yeah, they unfortunately weren't able to run Dave in their first game versus Fruitcakes, and I think Dave is a really strong part of their team. He showed up super big in a couple of the games in that second series, but definitely something that was a bit unfortunate for them. But they honestly didn't look too bad without him, so I'm glad to see that they do have some depth in their roster. I think there are some questionable draft decisions. If we want, we can scroll through those post games and take a look
Sure.
um, at all the series we've seen so far. But okay, yeah, so they're all going to be a little cut up because we've had a lot of a series played at the same time here. But the first series that we had this season were Andromeda versus SKT, and then Metabusters versus Rift Sharks. We've talked about Rift Sharks Metabusters a little bit, but Andromeda versus SKT did not go the way I thought it did, or I thought it was going to. Do
Really?
you have any thoughts on that series?
Um, Well, so my first thought is just I like seeing so they put Stanley in. I'm pretty sure Captain Coffee's their intended starter, but Stanley subbed himself in that game. And I think it's actually a really good meta for Stanley. There's a lot of really good mages bot lane right now, and Stanley's just historically one of the better mage players in the server. So I liked seeing them slot him in. and just go for those kind of picks. Like he's comfortable on them. It allowed them to get a pretty neat team comp where you have like the AD mid laner and the Yone, which Sarveris is a really good Yone player. Um, it's also fun to see Bean get to play the Singed. Like, how cool is it that this guy is like drawing bans and just picking Singed early in drafts and just running people over with it? No one else is doing that. I always love seeing players like have these unique pocket picks, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to point out on Andromeda is if I had to pick something that was the least surprising to me, Sarver's having an insane start to the season is definitely that for me. I don't
Yeah.
think he ended up getting it for game one in this series, but out of the other four, or like out of the four games they've played, he's gotten three MVPs. He's had a phenomenal season so far. Um,
Yeah, he
he
has.
is one of
And
the people who had to split the MVP last season. I think he's really gunning for it this time around.
yeah, he split it with Tusini last time. The two of them just having really great seasons, both mid lane. It's kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, Sarvers is coming in with a vengeance, saying I wanted myself this time, and has kind of dominated so far in all the wins and in all the MVPs, and just looking really, really strong, looking really on form. And one thing to point out is they had Dad in that series, and if you just saw last season, Dad wasn't here, but the season before he was on the Andromeda roster with myself that won. And one of the things I love about Dad is he's super good at recognizing where in a game can you push an advantage. And if it happens to be mid lane, he's super good about helping allow your mid laner to just play at the max level, be proactive, be pushed up, finding good ganks. And I think we're going to see all season, Dad's just going to enable Sarveris to like hit that next level. Um, and you're seeing it so far. I mean, their whole team's just playing really well. I'm not surprised. I've rated Andromeda as one of the strongest teams coming into the season.
Yeah, I mean, I also did expect this team to be pretty strong. I think they have a few rosters that they could run. I'm not sure which we're going to end up seeing the most. I know that, as you said, Stanley's only in due to some availability issues. I don't know if that's going to stay a thing. And I think once Stanley's out, that then they're able to run both Sam S or Dad. So we'll kind of have to see who they prefer there. But I mean, the Stanley Dad bot lane has been really strong. If we want, we can kind of kick up here. Like they got a Victor Tom Kench game in. They did end up losing this game. I don't really think it was their fault. This one really came down to an amazing Elder Steal from Nishan. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And then again, Sarver's popping off here, and then Sarver's having another really good game. But honestly, Stanley had a phenomenal game here on the Victor too. Uh,
Yeah. Stanley's
but
playing great. I mean, just it's kind of fun. It's just good timing for him right now. He's picked up Hwei really well as a new champion, and his Victor's just always been amazing. And right now, Victor's just insanely strong bot lane. It's just kind of perfect.
yeah. And then looking at Rift Shark's Meta Busters, I don't want to talk into depth too much, just because it's our team. Can't be biased. But Evan had a phenomenal game here on the Neela. I think it did end up getting counterpicked by Sivir. Um, Guru,
Yeah,
you had you have a bit of a kicker on LeBlanc here too, but um, I don't know. Evan on the champion is just another beast, so it might be something to look out for
yeah.
going
I
forward
thought
this season.
that was a pretty fun game. I thought both teams played well, and it really did ultimately come down to Evan just making a couple game-winning plays on the Nyla. Like, it, if you watched that one back, there was a point around, I think it was maybe an Otacon or just in that area, the bot side of the map, and I think maybe Syndra uses her stun just kind of haphazardly, and Evan with like out hesitation just flashes onto the Syndra and the Sivir, and he's just doing that all game. When he's on that Nyla pick, he plays so aggressively, it's really fun to watch. But I thought Metabusters had a good draft. They had a good game plan. Stav and Tusini were putting out a lot of damage in that game. Um, I think Evan just made the difference and rightfully got MVP for just a great Nyla performance.
Yeah, I completely agree. Looking at the second game, Metabusters did go with a bit of an adaptation in draft, which I think ended up hurting them a little bit. We were able to get the Jinx over on our side. Brewer was able to get access to the Syndra, which I think is might be a bit of a one and done for at least the first half of the season here. It's been banned against him past this. They did pick Lux a bit early, ended up flexing it bot, countered the Syndra with a Xerath, which I do like in theory. I just Stav didn't seem as comfortable on the Lux as he did on some of the other champions and underperformed a little bit. Um, which,
Yeah,
you just I I know he could do a lot better, and he definitely turned it up a notch in the next series. It's
he
just
did. I
unfortunate
like
just
the
with that.
thought of, I mean, I think playing either, like, Xerath is good into Syndra, and Tushini had a really nice Xerath game, like, the casters rightfully called out during the game, it felt like his R was point and click, like, he was just dumping damage, but when you have this double mage carries, it just gets really hard to play, especially from behind. I think if they had just kept one of those mages and put him mid, the Syndra would have still had some trouble, and then have that 80 carry to just really round out your team comp. I'm not a big fan of double like poke mage.
Yeah, and honestly, like now that you mentioned that, I kind of do want to run through and just look at all the games where we do have double mage and see how they panned out. Obviously, this is double mage versus double mage, so I think you can kind of overlook at. But it didn't end up well for Metabusters here. Um, did not work out for 101 Thieves here. Didn't again, I guess double mage v double mage, you can't really count those. Did not work out for 101 Thieves over here again. Did actually end up working for Andromeda here, but this was a super, super tight game. Again, you should just watch it. I think this one came down completely to macro calls. Um, and then I think that actually might have been it for the double mages. So I think Oh, and then Fruitcakes ran it and then ended up losing as well. Um, so it's like kind of like 1 in 3, 1 in 4. Definitely not the best strategy we've seen. So I wonder if either people are going to figure out how to play around it, or maybe pick combinations of mages that are better, or maybe just stop doing it
Yeah, I
completely.
I think the problem is it's real mages are just really strong right now, especially in bot lane, and I think that's why bot laners are wanting to pick them. But I think us as mid laners, just kind of including myself in this, I think a lot of players also just default to mages, so you just end up with these double mage comps. I don't know. I think mage bot with a non-mage mid can be even better than the reverse, like as you saw Andromeda do that game where they had Cerberus on the Yone. But I just don't think as many mid laners are comfortable pulling out the non-mage champions, or at least we haven't seen them go for that yet.
Yeah, and I mean, it really does come down to the question of like what actually does pair well with a bot lane. Like you've seen, like Katarina's shown up. Like maybe that would work because they're stylistically different. Where one of them's kind of close range and one of them's long range, so maybe 2 AP doesn't matter if you have a double AD bot side or like top side with the top jungle. Um, but I mean, I think Yone's been the one that looks the best. Honestly, like the Gwen Victor composition did work out kind of well. This was just a bit of a weird game, um, just because it was just so many AP champions. We saw so many Spirit Visages this game. It was just a bit weird overall. Again, banger series. I cannot stress enough. You should just watch it. But
They've
looking at some
all
of the
been
other
great.
ones, 101 Thieves versus Fruitcakes. Um, this
That
one's
one
so
was a
tough.
little bit dominating.
Yeah. The
I think
thing
that
for me
honestly,
though is it
go
felt
ahead.
like it was dominant in draft more so than gameplay, and I don't know if you feel the same way.
Um, I definitely think in game one, the draft is really hard. So if I remember correctly, they chose to take Garen on like the first three blue side picks, which allowed Ollie C to get an easy counter, which isn't the end of the world. You have red side, he's probably going to get a counter pick. But because they did that, it also allowed Juan to get counter picked because then they had last pick for Kai. And once both your solo lanes are counter picked, you also first picked Wukong, so he got counter picked. Your entire top side's counterpicked. The game is just hard. The second game, I still think they got counterpicked. Like you have Poppy into Riven, but Nevada played a pretty solid Riven game. Like even from behind, I was casting that one. Even from behind, she found some nice fights, some good angles. But yeah, I don't think they set themselves up for success overall in these drafts. Like, and then the second game they chose to first pick Wukong again, and I thought Jonah had a better game the second game, but the Udyr just seems like such a good answer into it. It really limits Wukong's carry ability in team fights, I think, because the Udyr can just face tank you and then you can't really get out.
Yeah, I mean, I I will second you on Jonah having a great game in game two. The first game he uh, did not. I will say, but Nevada played really well top lane. The end of the game scoreline of the 1-7-5 really doesn't reflect that. I don't think it does justice how well the
I
Riven was
agree.
played out. But I mean, there was a big advantage, especially through like jungle mid, and I feel like Nishan had a really good early game too. I just think the composition being varied on the side of fruitcakes, like they have a couple frontline, but Julian can do a lot of damage on the Udyr, and Poppy can honestly also do more damage than I feel like that champion should be allowed to. And then you have Ari Jin to kind of even out the damage there, and that's also like Giga comfort for
Yeah.
those two players where I mean, Nishan Wan, both not on something that's like one of their premier champions that they're looking for. Douglas um, was actually on pretty good comfort, and I feel like he had a few good plays that game. But I mean, I think a lot of this can just be chalked up to the fact that 101 wasn't able to run the roster that they were hoping for.
Yeah,
So I
I
think
do want to
we'll see a better showing for them going forward.
for sure. And on the side of fruitcakes, like I do want to credit their drafting. I think they drafted really well, but I don't want the draft to take away from how well I think they played in general. I'm not surprised to see Ollie C just taking over. I think he put everyone on notice with some of his sign up games. I mean, I think he's the highest ranked player in the server currently,
I think
just
he
in
just
solo
hit
queue.
GM,
And
so yeah,
yeah, like he's very, very strong. From everything I've heard from his teammates that I've been able to talk to, is he's a really good voice on the team. So great addition to the server. But yeah, as you said, Kai had an insane series. Julian, we didn't see him very much last season, but the season before, he was performing like one of the best junglers. So to see him back and getting games is fun. And then Faye has really impressed me. Um, this is Faye's first time starting on a team or playing a bunch of in game on a team
I
and
think on a
doing
team
really
at all, I
well.
think Faye was in
Yeah.
the off-season tournament, but
And then Kathy, I mean, Kathy, those one thing I want to point out on those games, like you see Kathy's scorelines, they look really good, but from watching the games back or when I watched them, Kathy had really good vision control both those games that allowed her team to play very, very aggressively. And I rate Fruitcakes really highly. I think they're a really strong team and they've been playing really, really well right now.
yeah, definitely agreed. I do like to overhate a little bit, but I just can't see the fraud coach claim 2 coaching titles.
Eh,
I just hate it. Like, I don't know, if he wasn't on that team, then I'd be like, "Oh my god, Julian's back. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see this." Like, I don't know. Love everyone on that team. Just have some
the
beef,
Mason
so
slander is crazy,
hey,
but
at least I'm upfront about it. Um,
that's fair.
I can hold a grudge and, be open about it instead of shading Noam all the time and not admitting that I have something against him. Won't won't say who I'm referring to there, but
You
anyway,
lost me.
uh, I don't know. Like this 101 versus Andromeda series is just so good. Like you have the first game where everyone like sees draft and they're like, "Oh my god, we picked 3 AP and 2 tanks into flipped Ornn and Tom Kench," which I do think is bad. It didn't matter. They won because
Yeah.
Andromeda basically did the same thing, but they had Ambessa. I'm hoping we see more Ambessa from Bean though. That champion is really fun to watch, even though it's completely bullshit and unfair. Keep it out of my games, but I do want to
Yes,
see it on the
exactly,
screen.
exactly.
Um,
Bean has had some good Mbessa games. He played one that I remember in Frostbite as well that he played really, really
don't
well.
remind me, man.
Yeah, he's had some solid Mbessa. Bean's champion pool is probably my favorite thing about this season so far, if we're just being honest. Like Singed, Darius, Mbessa, like this dude is just picking fun stuff he's in a tier of his own right now in the jungle as far as champ pool goes, and I'm here for it. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be my favorite until I have to like play into it. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
That's the same thing with Sarvis, right? Like, I love watching this guy play. He's so fun to watch. He plays so well. Do I want to actually deal with him against me on the other team? Absolutely not. Um,
Yeah, he's been picking fun stuff too. Like Tristana mid is like not as near
Gwen
as
mid?
popular as it used to be. I mean, Gwen mid obviously, but then Tristana, like he's just picking fun
Yeah,
stuff that not everyone else has at the top of their pool right now. I mean, sure Cassiope is kind of meta, but he's always had a really wide champion pool. It's fun to see him pick those unique picks as well.
yeah. And Arnie did have a really good game here too. I think his Jax having a lead was a huge part of why Andromeda was able to clutch this one out. And then game three,
Yeah,
I mean, I'll say it again. I think this game really could have gone either way. Both teams had huge advantages. Jonah made this insane play as Kazante at the end of game three. He postures himself right at the top of Bot River and like knocks Vi like all the way through the wall, completely out of the fight, gives his team an uncontested Elder, and then have his team dies right away, and then like they don't have anything, and they just completely lose, and then the game goes on for like 8 more minutes. So like I don't know. I was like on the edge of my seat there. I don't know. I didn't have my phone out, so or like I was watching on the TV, so I like couldn't type up a storm in Twitch chat. But oh my god, I wanted to. There's so many thoughts I had on the game. It was so fun to watch. But
Yeah,
uh,
you already mentioned it. It is shocking to see both those O2 teams because they've had some really impressive moments in their losses. Like
yeah,
they are right on the precipice of having won those series. I, so yeah, there has not been a bad series as far as entertainment or gameplay goes. Yeah, like it's been really entertaining.
yeah. I will move on to Meta Busters Fruitcakes. I think we did talk about that one a little bit, just because you I mentioned it at the beginning, so I don't need to go over it too much. But I mean, giving stop Twitch, like, come on, guys. Like, I know it's only week 2, but like how are we already doing this? I don't know. He dropped 19 kills. He kept it under
Yeah.
20. So Sarv still has the most kills. Fujer stole his pentakill to make sure that Sarv also has the only pentakill. So I
Yeah.
guess the only like upside to anything, unless you're a Metabusters fan of this Twitch bit going through, is that Sarvis is able to keep the Pentacrown and the most kills per game crown. But I mean, I don't know. I
Yeah, I mean, you gave stop Twitch, but
yeah.
I don't know. It's difficult. Like he had just had a really good performance on the Kog'Maw. I personally, I don't know if I think Kog'Maw's worse than Twitch. That's just me. Metabusters is just a difficult team to ban against. They elected both games to go, or all 3 games to go Jarvan, Syndra, and then they alternated the third ban between 80 carries. They're a hard team to ban against. I do want to talk about the Karma pick because Tushini's the only person that's been playing that lately. I've seen that he's been, I think, playing it a lot in solo queue or just normals as well. It's a really strong pick, and I like it with their team because when you have such a strong AD carry, but you also have a really strong jungle player in Stav. I don't love it as much with the Wook or with the Namumu pairing, but like the second game when they paired it with Rek'Sai, I just love to see that because I just really think Karma is it's a super strong lane. It scales well in the sense of just like being a good team fight threat. Yeah, the damage falls off, but if you have teammates and allies that you can like buff up, it works. Like it just works really well. And it also allows you to neutralize mid lane. Like at worst, Karma usually goes even. Like she can win matchups, but like it's rare to see Karma actually like lose matchups. And he piloted it really well both games.
Yeah, I will mention, I was curious, before that Metabuster series, Tusini had played Karma mid once before in Scrim Zone, but overall the pick was um 1-6 in scrims, and now it's 3-6.
Nice.
Not something that traditionally we've shown can be very good, but obviously it is a really good pick when he's able to pilot it well. So I think maybe the takeaway here is that it takes a bit more practice than you'd initially think.
Yeah, it's also, some people would say, well, you're putting last season's MVP on a supportive pick. Like Tusini has shown that he can just absolutely carry a game.
I mean,
So
didn't he
you're like,
like solo kill like 4 people on Karma mid across those 2 games? Like,
he did, but like you'd see some people, maybe myself, would be like, why are you putting him on the supportive pick? But really good players can carry on supportive picks. It just requires your team to allow you to do that.
yeah,
And Metabusters as a team, I think just they have strong members in every position. So I really think it just allowed him to enable Stav that third game and just really enable Fuzier that second game. Um, and I don't know. I also like you get Kog'Maw and like you usually want to pair an Enchanter with Kog'Maw, but Jackson seemed very comfortable on these tankier engaged champions. So you get him on that while still having an Enchanter for Kog'Maw. It just allows a lot of draft flexibility as well.
yeah. The benefits for the Rek'Sai and Renekton are huge as well. If you're able to get the Mantra E onto them while they're already in the fight, it's so powerful. That extra move speed to chase down um, targets is just very nice. And any of those like 80 bruiser junglers, Karma pairs really well with. I know like Xin and Olaf are the ones that you traditionally see put with it,
Yeah.
but Rek'Sai is basically the same thing. And I know there's been a lot of talk about the Fuji Rek'Sai. I'm glad we finally got to see it. He looked really good on that pick. Definitely
Yeah, he
something I've been
did.
excited to see for a while, and actually getting to see it was really exciting.
Yeah, he really did. I haven't really been seeing much Rek'Sai in Scrim Zone or just in my general playing the game lately, and he's played it really, really well. So that's a fun pick as well. We were talking about all the things Bean's pulling out. Rek'Sai a little more meta traditionally, but just fun to see somebody going to that counter pick or just that pocket pick and having good performance.
Yeah, let me double check the total Rek'Sai overall stats. Um, I guess in team format overall, it's been picked 13 times. It's won 6. Jonah's played it the most with 6 times. If you got Unk knowledge, you know who Dan is. He's 1-1 on the pick as well. But Fujer picking it up for the first time. Mike and Rex have also won on it. Cam and I unfortunately did lose out on it, but overall, Jonah is the most frequent player of it with 8 games. Dan and Mike both. Oh, never mind. Both with 4 wins. Dan with 7 games. Mike with 4. But it's actually the first time
Oh,
Fujer's even played it in the server, and does have the overall highest KD except for Rex. Obviously on a 1 game sample size, but not a
yeah.
champion we
I
see too
do.
much. Like normally you see more than just a few people have played it, and it kind of just looks like we have 2 people who really played a lot. So maybe we'll see it rise up in Future's pool, or maybe it'll stay more of a pocket pick.
I would like to see him play it more. I think it fits their play. I think fits his play style in particular really well. Like he's shown a lot of good champions throughout his jungle career in the server so far, but to me, his most impressive has been the Jarvan. And I think in a lot of ways, Rek'Sai can kind of fill a similar niche in your team. Has really strong ganks, bruisery, team fights solidly in the mid to late game. I really like it. I think we'll see more if I had to guess from him.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to it. Xin Zhao, I think, is probably the most similar champion that we have seen a lot, and it's at a 37% win rate. Rek'Sai is actually positive, so maybe Rek'Sai is just the better Xin. I don't know. I don't put too much stock in anything I'm saying. But what I actually let's go over the last series first. Desperate to talk about meta. I haven't looked at it yet. I normally nerd out over the stats and look what's popular and what isn't, but I haven't done so. So I'm kind of excited to dig into it. But I cannot stress enough that Alvarez Inferno is a good team. We beat them 2-0, and if you don't watch the series, but maybe you're watching this, just know that it is not an easy 2-0. They had a
Well, I
gold
mean,
lead in both games.
My Ash mid was just too much for them to handle.
Noam logged that one. Just gonna put that one out there. I'll get that fixed. Um,
No, that was a fun series, and yeah, Albert's Inferno played a really good series. Like that should not have been a 2-0. We played well. We found some angles, but they played well. In particular, I want to shout out Omar. He's newer to the server. I'd not played against him before. I don't think.
yeah, no, we pulled up
Maybe
your
like
key
1 or 2
matchup
games.
stats at the beginning of it. 0 matches played. So
Yeah, he played really, really well on the Hui, especially the first game. I don't even think he died until 30 minutes. Hong, of course, played well. I mean, I think Alberts as a team has a really high ceiling. I think they were very close. They had winning positions in both those games. I think with by the end of the season, if they can iron out a few things, I think they'll be really, really scary.
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say it should have been a 2-0. I think we drafted well. I think we played well. I don't think we really threw anything. However, I will say that I think we are very lucky that they did not actually get a series in last week, because I think there's just a few things that they need to iron out in their team, and I think they're going to get a lot better. As Teddy was saying, like there were a few things that he noticed watching back that he could just talk to his team a little bit, and then it should be something that can work out pretty well. So I think we did get a little um, lucky there. I think this team is going to be super solid. So moving forward, I think definitely one to look out for. Did get it fixed for you. You actually played LeBlanc now. Um,
Perfect.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
I think they're just figuring out their identity still a little bit. But what playing against them showed me is Omar seemed like I already said, really, really good on the control mages. And I think and we already all know Teddy's been in the serve forever. That dude can play hyper carries. I think if they
yeah,
can figure out how to comfortably play these scaling team fight compositions, um, I think they'll look really strong because I think they'll have two strong backline carries, and the rest of their team has shown really good moments on these more tankier kind of supportive picks. Fishy's still shout out Fishy. He's brand new to top lane this season. I'm pretty sure he began playing, not even just in the server, he began playing top lane for this team this season. So he's new to it. He's already added multiple picks. He's had good Cho'Gath games. He's had good set games. Um, so I'm excited to see him grow as well because I mean he's a really strong player, traditionally jungle, and the more he gets into top lane, the stronger he's going to get there.
Yeah, for sure. Something I did want to point out. Also, will note that this is Fishy's first time starting the season on a team. He did play a series for Andromeda last season, so not his first team format experience. But I think if he's able to add one or two more champions to his pool that he's comfortable on, I think this team gains so much value just because of something that we were able to do in this game one draft. We blinded Urgot, which is punishable. Maybe not by picks that you normally want on your team, but Set does have a really bad matchup into it, and we were kind of able to do that just because we knew that his champion pool was kind of limited to 2 or 3 picks. So kind of
Yeah,
getting him onto that was super helpful. So I think as he's able to play more and pick up experience on a couple more champions, I think this team like exponentially just gets a lot better. Albert is really strong and is able to play meta picks. I mean, we're the team that everyone looks at our mid lane and throws a bunch of bans at it, and we're throwing a ban at Omar already. And Hong obviously going to play hyper carries, and Jeremy has a very good champion pool to support that. So I think this team can really get uh, those like little bits ironed out in draft. Just give themselves a couple more options, and I think they're going to be really threatening because their synergy is pretty obvious. A lot of these players have been playing together for a while, as far as I know. I think Fishy's the only new addition there, and I think he already fits
yeah,
in pretty well. So excited to see how this team kind of grows over the course of the season.
yeah.
But
I really same. They look they had some really strong moments, and so yeah, I think that's all the games so far.
yeah, so with that, we're gonna go to the meta.
Woohoo!
We'll
Meta.
see how cringe everything is. Syndra with 79% presence. We have
Not
Sarvis, we have
surprising.
Brewer. This isn't really surprising. I think Tusini has
Yeah.
not been prioing it as much as he used to, but
Well, between his games, he played it one game into us, and I believe it got banned every game in the Metabusters series, or I mean the Fruitcake series. So he has shown prio on it this season as well, and
that's true.
I'm not surprised. It's a strong pick that also just happens to be. It's for sure a comfort pick for me and Sarverus. Like, I think it's probably two of our favorites. Tusini's historically been great on it. It's a champion that a lot of mid laners play. It's strong right now, so no surprise whatsoever that it's at the top of the list.
Yeah, I guess it does have 100% presence in Tusini's game, so I'm just lying. Like, my bad. Thanks for calling me out on that.
That's what I'm here
Quay
for.
is another one that we've seen super high priority on.
Yeah,
5 picks, 5 bans, 71 presence. The same as Singed, actually, but the Singed has a bit of a different profile here. It's 1 in 9 in terms of picks and bans. Bean was able to get it once, and it's been banned against him a lot and Ali C basically every game, I'm pretty
I
sure.
don't think Ollie C's getting it ever. I
Yeah.
hope he does because I really want to see it, but not against me.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those
So,
things that might show up in playoffs where people are like really testing the limits, gambling on like, can I leave this up? What'll happen? Um,
yeah, the
but
Hwei though is not surprising to me. I mean, it's a really strong pick, especially in bot lane right now. But you saw Omar played it in mid lane that series and had a really strong game on it. It's just the playstyle of Hwei. Just it's the E spam. It's the fire ground little mini rumble ult thing. Like it's Vel'Koz with an actual good ability. It just allows him to wave clear, farm up, and then in team fights, the champion just has damage. Like I think Hwei will stay high presence the entire season.
so sad. What a boring champion. Um,
It is boring. It is. It really is. It's like modern day Lux is how I'll put it. I really like Lux in mid lane is just super uninteractive, just farms, pokes you down. It's just like modern day, and the fact that it can also go bot lane and be an AP carry and do really really well, it just makes it so good to have in your draft because the flex capabilities, and you're gonna see that with a lot of teams. Andromeda has flex capability with it. Rift Sharks has flex capability. Like there's I don't know. I wish it would get nerfed, but I really think we're gonna see it the whole season.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe someone will pull out the support way too. That's always a possibility.
Oh yeah,
Looking at the other champions that are 50% or above, Renekton's up there. That's not super surprising. We have Arnie, we have Korn. Both of these players are going to heavily prioritize that champion. I think we
yeah.
saw some games of it from Liav as well. Nami again is a champion that is just a popular champion in general, but specifically really good for Jacob, one that he prioritizes. Lux, uh, Tusini, and Kai both love this champion. We're going to see it a lot. Stav did pick it up, but that's still on that Metabusters team.
And it's a triple flex even more than the Hui is. I mean, Lux support's traditionally been a great pick, so
Uh,
yeah, I think we'll see a lot of Lux.
yeah, I mean, I sleep, but yeah, very, very
Yeah, and as
flexible
Stanley
champion.
just said, Lithi also has a really good Nami and has I think
True.
drawn presence on that before. So yeah, it's not surprising. These are champs that have historically been popular in Scrim Zone, maybe outside of the Singed. Like, yeah, people like their champs.
Yeah. And then I think rounding it off, Skarner, probably the best jungler in the game right now. Not surprising that he's high up there. I think people were pretty high on Wukong earlier, but I think at least now that we've gotten off that initial patch of the season, he's gone down a little bit. So not surprising
Yeah,
seeing Skarner up there. And then Gragas, I think we saw once top and probably permaban versus Julian for the rest of the games.
yeah, I think it's Permaban versus Julian, and then I know Jonah played it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Skarner to
Trying
me
to think who
is
else would have
it's
banned.
really strong. It really is.
Yeah, and then I think Jinx just one of the better actual ADCs in the game right now. And then Janna is, I guess Kathy and Jeremy both prioritize that champion, so not surprising seeing it up there. And then Nautilus has been picked 7 times, banned once. Basically
Yeah,
anyone can play this champion. Very
it's every sport's
staple pick.
comfort,
Yeah.
for sure. I'm on as far as Wukong goes, I'm still not sold that he's not stronger than maybe the performance shows. I think he's had a couple rough ones. People have kind of soured on him a little bit. I just think the Wukong is a lot harder to play around than something like the Skarner.
Yeah, looking at Wukong, he's actually 0-4, which I do want to take into the biggest flops, I guess, is the best way to put it.
I
So
don't think it reflects his strength.
yeah, Lux and
I can't
Wukong,
remember.
both 0-4 this season so far.
That's surprising to me, especially really both of them. But it is only 4 games, but still, I think a lot of people would rate those champions pretty highly right now.
Yeah, I guess Tusini had it once in game 1 of Metabusters versus Fruitcakes and did end up losing on it. I'm surprised he hasn't picked it more, to be honest. But I mean, I guess if it never wins, then maybe there's an
Yeah.
argument to be made there.
I think we'll see it. I think the next time you check the stats page, the Lux will probably have some wins if I had to guess.
Yeah. The other champions that are winless, I'm not going to count the 1 game losses, but
Yeah,
Cho'Gath
Cho'Gath
0-2,
stands out to
Ambessa
me. Yeah.
0-2, Kane 0-2, Oriana and Ziggs also 0-2. None of these are super surprising to me. I know people put Cho'Gath pretty high, but I think the champion's super counterable. But
Yeah, I don't know what happened in the first game. I mean, the second game that we just saw, Avery had Darius counter pick into Cho'Gath. I don't really think it's a super blindable champion. Oh, and Avery's beaten
yeah,
it
it's
both
just
times.
don't pick
I,
Cho'Gath into Avery. That's
I
that's the
think Avery
takeaway
has a
here.
strong, yeah. I think Avery has a good champ pool into Cho'Gath, and it has been blind picked both times. I think if we see Cho'Gath get picked in a slot where he's not, it's just a really good Cho'Gath spot. I think the champ can really feel hard to deal with. Because even in that game, it started to feel hard to deal with.
Yeah. And I do want to point out the only undefeated champion is actually Jin,
Really?
which I'm guessing is Faye 3 times. And bingo. Uh, I
Yeah,
think
yeah, it
maybe
is. It-
some bans against this champion could be in the talks.
I
But
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on Jin. Like Jin's my favorite ADC in the game. Like I'm a big fan of that champ. I think he's fine right now. I think it's hard to pick Jin early because so many teams have just realized, oh, if I just pick tank into Jhin, it can be hard for him. Faye has shown you can win despite that because I'm pretty sure they've drafted the Jhin early in drafts every time. But I don't know. The thing with Faye's been playing it well, but the thing you said maybe a ban, I don't think you can ban it away from Faye because there's so many other scary champions. So I think she's going to continue to get that comfort, and I think we'll see more Jhin, and I think she'll pick up more wins on it.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see some of the other undefeated champions. There's a lot with 2 games. This whole screen is
Oh wow.
undefeated champions. We have Darius, Camille, Milio, LeBlanc, Rakan, Karma, Maokai, Udyr, Urgot, and Vi. I think a lot of these champions just they don't feel super high prio to me, and a lot of them have basically like 0 bans or just a couple. Darius is the only one that sticks out as something that I expect to see prioritized by a few teams, but I think a lot of these were just picked in spots that were really good for them, and we definitely just saw the value of that coming out.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, yeah, I think you said it well. Those are all kind of been picked in strong spots for them. Outside of the maybe like the Jin feels like an obvious comfort pick. The Darius, the rest just feel like people picking good champs in the right spot.
Yeah, and just kind of scrolling through and looking at the top played champions in both roles or in all the roles. Everything looks pretty normal except for mid and bot, so we can take a peek at those real quick. Karma just being up there. We've seen a couple of Lissandra games, which I don't think is super common. We
No.
did see some Anivia, and everything else is just unique champions down the line. We've seen a lot of different stuff mid, probably the most diverse champion pool. Um, you, as the mid laner, do you have any thoughts on the mid lane meta so far this season?
I don't really think it's been defined yet. I think everyone's just kind of playing what they individually feel strong. I think I think I've shown that you can play some of these aggressive champions like LeBlanc if you're able to snowball. I think everyone's obviously same kind of thing with Ari. People are comfortable just defaulting to the control mages. Tushini has shown that the Karma pick is strong. I don't think he's the only like I wouldn't be shocked if someone else saw that and was like, "Oh, maybe I could try that too." Mid is wide open. You can pick anything right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I guess we'll walk down to my territory in ADC, and Wei and Jinx are 1 and 2. These
It's so
champs are
boring.
boring. Riot, can we change this, please? I don't want to play either of them. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm part of the problem. I've picked Jinx twice.
Well, you want to
I
win. I mean,
drafted Jinx for Evan. Rift Sharks is all 3 Jinx wins. Fuck this champion, please. Like, get, like I don't want to prioritize it anymore. It's boring. It's hit something
yeah.
and then you just auto really fast and then you win fights. I don't know. It's what it is. And then Hui
I
is
mean,
like even more boring. It's so awful.
it's a shame that 4 of the top 7 are all mages on that list. Really, Kaisa's right there at 1 game, but uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not the most exciting. Not the most exciting, but at the same time, we saying that you got a Neela game, you got a Sivir game, you got a Twitch game, you got a Vayne game. Teddy had an insane
Yeah,
Vayne
no,
game.
Teddy's
Like,
Vayne is so good. We barely weathered the storm bot lane. The guy dropped 14 kills. It's gonna be a problem for someone else to deal with later on. You just gotta hope that your captain pays attention and notes the fact that you gotta watch Teddy's Vayne. Um, we got
so
lucky.
bot lane has some fun picks. I just think for the most part, people are defaulting to that group at the top, and I hope and pray that when we look at this in a couple of weeks, it's not that they're up to like 15 and those fun picks we just named are at like 3 picks. But we'll have to see. I don't know. I think there is variety, but at the same time, I think part of it too is a lot of people are just prioritizing picking ADCs early in the draft. And when you're doing that, you're going to default to Jinx. You're going to default to these mages. You're going to default to picking something like Kog'Maw. So I think maybe if some people get to hold their picks a little longer, you'll see more stuff like the Nyla, like the Sivir, maybe even the Kaisa.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing that I can hold on to as hope is that Ziggs 0-2, except he's the one that I like. But whatever. I mean, Victor, 6.20 KDA. Strong argument for just picking Victor. Maybe I'll convince you guys to let me play Victor. Who knows? but I don't know.
Victor's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, looking overall though, I do think Victor's been banned away a couple times too. Yeah, he's 3-3, so definitely not a champion that gets through all the time. I feel like in games where he's likely to be picked, he does tend to get banned out. So that is something to look forward to. But kind of
Yeah.
on the last leg of the podcast here, so I do want to run predictions on the three series that are scheduled for next week. I believe there's a possibility that Albertson. Oh wait, never mind. That already happened. I need to make sure I'm not gaslighting people. Um, okay, hold on. I've corrected my sins. But yeah, I mean, I think it's possible that we could see a game from BB, although I do think it is a bit hard for them with some extenuating circumstances. If you know, you know. I'm not going to get into it. Um, but we'll have to see. I think the game versus them tomorrow for us did get postponed because I think Alex is sick, and I know Mike was sick earlier, so I'm hoping both of them are recovering pretty well. The elephant in the room here is that we haven't gotten to see this team play yet this season,
It's a
and
shame
they're
too.
currently in
Yes.
third. So just a little funny. I'm really excited to see this team play because I honestly have no clue where they're going to fall. They
Yeah.
did just 0-2 out of Frostbite really quickly. Um, and that's obviously not all the team has to offer. I know Adam had like a broken hand and like hadn't slept and like there was so much
Yeah.
stuff going on there. So it's like clearly we haven't seen this team perform to what they can, but it's gotten to the point where we just
Can't
haven't
see
seen
it
this
till you
team
see it, you
perform.
know? Yeah. I'm excited though. I mean, it's a lot of returning players, people that didn't
Yeah.
play in the last season or the one before, but a lot of names that longtime players will remember. So it's fun to have them back. Ready to see them in action.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess something that we will get to catch up on is we haven't seen too much of SKT either, because their match was also pushed back due to illness. But we are going to see them twice this coming
Oh
week,
yay.
which is going to be pretty exciting. They're playing as Rift Sharks on Thursday, and then they're playing again versus 101 Thieves on Sunday, with the match that I'm the most excited for. Honestly, the match that I might be the most excited for the rest of the season, in Andromeda versus Fruitcakes. I think this is going to be a complete banger. Um,
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
yeah, I don't know. Just based on what we've seen so far, I feel like my prediction for Rift Sharks versus SKT. Also, like I don't know, cop out answer. I'm predicting my own team. I'm just going to say we're going to 2-0. You can
Oh,
do that. You can
um,
not do that. I will not pressure you either
I
way.
mean,
I'm the
I'm
captain, so I'm obligated. But
I'll say this, and this goes for anybody. If you don't believe you're gonna win, what's the point? I think we're gonna 2-0 them, and I no more analysis necessary.
so true. Moving on to Andromeda versus Fruitcakes. Andromeda has looked so dominant, but I also need to consider the fact that the cumulative score of the two teams that they've played is 0-3. So it's like a question of are they performing really well because they're really good, or are they performing against teams that they could beat? And I think this series should answer the question because Fruitcakes has also beat 101 Thieves and did
Yeah.
it more cleanly than Andromeda did, albeit with a different roster. So I think that should put these two teams on kind of an even footing. And then Fruitcakes was able to take a game off Metabusters, which I think across the board is rated as one of the best teams in the league right now. So I think that does make this matchup really interesting. So I'm going to kind of wait to predict that one. And I do want to talk about 101 Thieves versus SKT a little bit because this
Okay.
game is a complete mystery to me. I feel like I have no clue how well these teams are going to perform. I think we saw some pretty high highs from 101 Thieves in that Andromeda series, but SKT, we haven't gotten to see too much out of them. And once again, we're in a situation where both of these teams have played a team in common already and did end up in the same result.
Yeah, I'm excited for the SKT 101 series for sure. Um, it's going to be kind of dependent on which rosters get ran, I think, especially on 101 Thieves side. I expect SKT to come into that looking pretty strong. I think Liav will probably be set up to have a really good series. Um, to me, SKT still kind of, I don't know if they've entirely figured out where their maybe their best role positions are. Honan can play like multiple roles. A lot of them can. I know Liav can play top or mid. Honen's shown multiple roles. I'm pretty sure their bot laners have all shown multiple roles. I think the really only thing that's locked in is Apari in the jungle. Um, if I have to
Yeah.
make a prediction, I'm probably going to give it to SKT 2-1. I think it'll be a close series, but to me, I think Liav will probably make the difference.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out. For the role swapping thing, to my knowledge, Dio, Honan, and Lithi can all play all three of the roles down there, and I don't think we've seen them leverage that all at all in draft. And I think a big thing of what made Andromeda so hard to deal with last season was the fact that Honan and Lithi were kind of interchanging which roles that they were going
Yeah.
to play, and I think once they lost that flexibility, they were hurt a little bit. So I would like to see SKT actually leverage that. I think their drafts and the series against Andromeda were a little on the weaker side, and it felt like their
Yeah.
shot calling in game could be something to work on. But those are both things that you can improve on pretty easily as a team if you actually set your mind to it. And I think
Yeah,
101 Thieves is also a team that we've seen struggle a little bit in drafts. So I think maybe that
for
could
sure.
give SKT some breathing room to have a better series this time.
For sure. I think with Honan in mid lane, especially, oh, really, I think Honan in any role, I think he has like one or two champions that just automatically pop into my mind, whether it's bot, whether it's mid, or whether it's support, that you just do not want him on. So I would like to see them use that flex capability to get him on one of his best champions. If it's Xerath, put him support or mid. If it's Thresh, put him support. If it's Varus or Ashe, put him bot lane.
Yep.
I don't like when he's getting pinched and he ends up on something like the Oriana that we saw Sarver kind of just able to bully. So I think they got to use that flex capability to get themselves on their strongest champions because we've also seen Apari's been getting Kane so far this season, and he's an amazing Kane player. I think teams are more willing to give it just because Kane's a little bit weaker in this meta with all the early game prio, and you also have someone like Liav drawing typically two bans. So I think SKT's just got to figure out how do we get our players on their strongest champions, kind of irregardless of what role people end up in. Just get ourselves on comfort.
Yep. And now you've just given them so much helpful advice 2 days before our series career. Thank you. I really appreciate it. You're making my drafting job so much
Well,
easier. No,
I just like
I'm with you. I
competition.
would like a competitive season. I want to see all the teams at their best, especially with it's a single round robin. So you only get one crack at every team. So I'd like to play all teams on their best, and I agree with you. I think that is SKT's best path to success. I think you just have to consider the fact that sometimes flexing is going to harm just like synergy and stuff. If you have a bot lane duo
Yeah.
play a lot together and things go well, then I think maybe changing that up could mess it up, and that could be why we're seeing Dio and Lithy stay bot lane together. And I think this team has practiced a decent amount from what I've heard. I don't know. I feel like this is one of the teams that I'm like completely radio silent on. Once there's 8, I stop hearing things about as many
Yeah.
teams.
I
Um,
will say I haven't really said much about 101. I'm excited to see some more improvement out of them. To me, I think one, it includes just running Dave in your roster. Dave
yep,
has just been really impressive every game that I've seen out of him. And I also think Juan getting back into form a little bit. I saw some really great performances out of him in like just signups. Haven't really seen that same level of performance in the stage games so far. Granted, he's gone against someone like they played Sarverus and whatever other team they've played. And to see and
fruitcakes.
fruitcakes and
Yep,
in the
fire.
fruitcake series, like he got his comfort pick as Katarina, but then he had to play into Lissandra, who Kai's
Yeah.
really good at. So I want to see them set up Juan for some comfort in good matchups and try to let him go to work in that series because I think it's fair to say that between Sarveris, Kai, and whoever they play on 101 Thieves, this will probably be his best opportunity yet to kind of try to take over in mid lane.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the fact that given that SKT does flex around a lot, I think you're guaranteed that either their mid laner or bot laner, if they're running their main roster, which we don't know for sure, um, there are some people on that team that I would really like to see get more games in. But who knows? I digress. I think that is going to leave a window open for either Juan or Nishan to get to play into, or no, Dave. Nishan in the jungle versus Afari is going to be a banger, but that's separate.
Yeah,
I
it
think
is.
Dave or Juan is going to get a matchup that they can punish. And I hope that we see like one of those like really good games where like one team's top laner is super fed, and then one team's like ADC or mid laner is super fed, and it's kind of like a clash of titans going on.
Yeah.
So I think we should see some really good games here. Um,
What's your prediction?
if I'm being honest, I think it's going to be a 2-0 for either team, and I really have no clue which. But since you predicted uh, SKT
SKT.
2-1, I'm going to pick 101 Thieves 2-1. Um,
Okay.
just we'll see if it plays out that way. Uh, I don't
That
know.
will be a
I
great
don't know
series.
what it is specifically, um, but I feel like every team there's like, or every season there's like a team that just in my heart I just love rooting for them, and it's been 101 Thieves this season. Um, Maybe it's because they're 0-2 and they're an underdog. Maybe it's because their drafts are just fun and there's a little chaos in there. We're definitely not seeing the 101 Thieves that we saw last season, where it's just pure unadulterated chaos and you have like Rex, Taxi, Psycho Carrot. We've completely overhauled the roster. Jonah's the only remaining player. But they've kind of kept some of that
Yeah.
spirit in them with them, and like I don't know,
They
maybe it's just
have.
like the air around the team, the branding. Who knows? I don't
They
know.
have
I
aura. They have aura. You made me think of something when you just said that. Having casted that series in the Fruitcakes game, I'm really excited for them as well. I'm really excited to see more performances out of Nevada. I, it was that second game where they ended up playing Riven into Poppy. We
yes,
already talked about it. The scoreline didn't really reflect their performance in that game. We were talking in the cast. I was literally saying, okay, you probably want to blind pick something that's, not super punishable. Ollie C is going to get last pick. And then they just picked Riven.
slam
And I'm
Riven.
so here for it. Like, you can do, let's play safe. But at the end of the day, Ollie C is going to get a good matchup. He's
Yeah.
going to play well. He's Grandmaster. Take what you feel confident in and just do it. And Nevada had some really nice plays. I'm just excited to see 101 Thieves with more aggression, with more time to practice. And it's a lot of new players into the server as well that I'm just always happy to see.
Hey, all I'm saying is if you can solo bowl Ali C, you could probably solo bowl Liev as well. So we'll see. I think top lane is probably not as over as our recent comments have made it, but made it seem. But looking back, Andromeda versus Fruitcake. Wait, who
Bum
are we
bum
playing
bum. This is
last?
this is super hype. This is super super hype.
Oh, I must
And I
have
think this
scheduling
series,
oopsied. I was trying to
I,
schedule this
I
season so we played Andromeda last because I thought it was gonna be a good matchup. But I think I
huh,
I failed that at some point. But anyway, I think we're playing
oh
them
well.
sooner.
This
Sorry, tangent.
Fruitcakes Andromeda
But
series
oh my god, this is
to
gonna be
me
so
is going
good.
to be, and it's good to me. It's going to be really important. I know we're only 3 weeks in. When we look at like seeding down the road, I think we could look back at this match, and that could be
Yep.
the decider between who's getting second seed versus third seed, or even first or second. Like these teams
Yeah.
are so strong. And it's a battle of titans. And it's to me like what you just said you always hope for, where you're going to see one side of the map, one get really strong, and the other side of the map get really strong. I don't think it's fair to say. I don't think it's unfair to say that we expect Ollie C to get big in that matchup. Just in the same
Yeah.
way, we expect Sarvers to get really big. And I'm just so excited. They both draft well. They both pick interesting champions. They've played before. I know their games in the past have been really entertaining. I I'm just excited.
Yeah. I mean, I think my eyes this entire series. Obviously, I think the jungle is really going to be interesting because Julian definitely like a solid overall player is going to play a lot of conventional stuff. And I think that is going to be kind of easier to draft your team around, but he might not have as much experience playing into these weird niche picks that Bean likes to play.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
think the biggest thing this series is going to be how does Kai play? How does Arnie play into these like matchups that I mean they're going to feel pressure because you're playing into such like a highly regarded player. I think whoever is going to be able to step up to the plate and succeed is going to have the team that ends up winning.
yeah.
And if
That's how I
I
put it.
if I would have to bet, I mean I think this series should for sure go to 3 games. I would be shocked if it doesn't, but I don't know. Andromeda
It's
two
hard to
one.
predict.
I, th-
Oh, okay.
I'm not
I,
confident in that. I think it could go either way really easily. But I think this team just has more experience overall in high pressure situations. Just looking at the kind of like accolades of this roster, I think they have it in them. Um,
I
just a little bit more. So Andromeda 2-1 is my predict.
Okay, I won't make my prediction just yet. I'm still deciding, but another matchup I'm so excited for in this series. We're not for sure what rosters people will run yet, but if we just
Yeah.
assume that they're going to run similar,
From
Kathy versus either Dad or Sam is
Oh,
going to be
yeah.
so entertaining. Kathy to me has been performing so well,
Yes,
always
yes.
has been. I would say Kathy's one of, if not the best enchanter player in the server. And I think Dr. Dad has been playing really well on some of these engage picks. And I think seeing that matchup, they both have great vision. Both of these teams have just great macro plays from what we've seen as well. I don't want to overhype it and then it like doesn't live up to it, but it wouldn't surprise me if this ended up being like one of, if not the best series to watch of like the whole season, in the regular season. Like it's
Yeah.
gonna be so hype. I'll stop like talking in circles to avoid making a prediction. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Andromeda 2-1. I
Okay.
have to. Those are my boys. But it's gonna be close. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. I thought of a couple things as you were talking. I actually meant to say this earlier, but 101 Thieves versus SKT also kind of has that Enchanter versus like tanky engage thing going on with Douglas into Liffy. So I think that should be
Yeah.
pretty exciting. Obviously, if you do see Honan show up on the Thresh, I think that could change things a little bit. But I mean, I just enjoy some role swapping in general. But yeah, I mean, we could see the first coffee series from Andromeda 2. I think that could be really interesting.
Yeah, it
But
could.
that's kind of up in the air. Per sources, this might be around the time we expect coffee to start getting games in. But um, given that's on Saturday, I don't know if that changes anything. I don't even know. Like I could also be
That'll be
fed
interesting because
misinformation.
they have
But
pretty. I know Coffee will also play some of the mages, but I don't think he has the same like just mage priority that
right,
Stanley does. So if you bring Coffee in, you start bringing in picks like he's had a really good Caitlyn, he's had a really good Jinx, he's had a really good. He's been adding Tristana to his
and
pool.
Varys.
So and Varys, yeah, he just has a wide champion
Yep.
pool. So yeah, that'll be really exciting. I really hope if it's Dad that we get like he's been playing really really well. To me, Dad's been one of the best supports in the server the entire time he's been here, might be performing one of the best right now. But I want to see him go back to some of those pocket picks that we were seeing at the end of his Andromeda run into the playoffs when he was
Oh
pulling out the
no.
Bard, when he was pulling out the Zillion. And right now he's been going more meta. He's been picking the Tom Kench. He's been picking, I think, a Nautilus, maybe a Rel, maybe a Rakan. When he chooses to bring out those pocket picks, I'm so excited to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, as you are a dad shooter because he was on your team previously, I will hype up Sam as I am really hoping we get to see him at some point soon. He was on my team back in season 3, and then he played some in season 4, and I don't think we've seen
Unk.
him in a team format game since then. So this would be a really anticipated game if he does come back.
That would be
But
exciting. That would also
yeah,
be
I mean, I'm
exciting.
just hoping Coffee and Sam as get some games in soon. I mean, I really am enjoying Stanley Dad bot lane too, but I like kind of seeing what everyone has to offer. And then one,
Andromeda has so many strong players. I think it's just
yeah,
fair. Like they have a great bench. It's kind of unfair how many strong players they have on their bench.
yeah, I can say the same about SKT. I think that team could
That's
get
true.
a little interesting too. Um, but yeah, the one thing that I do have to mention, and I actually don't want to talk about this at all. I just want to mention it. Um,
Okay.
Mel's going to be enabled for all these games, so we're gonna have to see.
You don't want my opinion on Mel?
Nope. I just want to leave it open ended so that people can just speculate on their own.
Okay, that's fair. We'll
I
talk
have
about it
opinions
next week.
too. I'm not going to give them. I think it's funny to just let it sit there. So, uh,
Fair
enjoy
enough.
Mel next week, everybody. Hopefully, we'll not. Oh, maybe I don't know. Maybe we'll see a bunch. Maybe we won't. I think
I think we'll see it. That's the only thing I'll say. I think we'll see it a fair amount. I don't
yeah.
think we'll see it every time, but I don't think it. I think it will show on
It's also a
some.
question of is it going to show up on the ban list or is it going to show up in the picks? So
That'll be
I
interesting to
don't
see
know.
as
No
well.
one's played it in signups yet either because we haven't had as many running. So I feel like our first Mel game in the server is probably going to be a team format game. So I don't know. Could be fun. But anyway, I think we could probably call it here. Thanks for hopping on as a co-host. Maybe we'll
My
see more of you
pleasure.
if more of these happen while Mason is at work or forgets. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Peace.